I've said it for a while, the spring market is here. Let's jump into some stats. What's going on, y'all? It's Mason Bleasdell, your Austin real estate agent. We're now in March, which is crazy. 2024 is getting on it. Spring market has definitely started to begin, but we're gonna dive into some February statistics. There's a few things, showing the markets quite a bit up and strengthening a lot. In this, I want to talk a little bit about that, some of the closed statistics from February. I also want to talk a little bit about what we saw this week. This week, some of the stats for new listings, for pendings are really great ways to just, get an indication of what we're going to see come March statistics. But to start off, we're at the beautiful Lake Austin coffee shop, Mozart's Coffee Roasters. If you are familiar with this area, I'm sure you've heard of them. If you haven't been down here, you definitely should, because it's just stunning. It's such a cool spot down here in West Austin, but let's jump right into it. So February 2024, again, these statistics come from the entire Austin MLS. And to start off, I want to just talk about last week. So in the last 7 days, as of the recording of this video, we saw 1,371 new listings. This is way up from what we saw when we did this video a month ago in February. In my own experience, we are seeing a lot more inventory, just starting to come back into the market. Thankfully, a lot of people had so little to choose from for the past couple of months, which is a little bit typical of the seasonality, but it's gonna be 90 degrees today here in Austin, and people are just starting to get into the mode of moving. Of course, school is coming up in the next couple of months when that lets out, so a lot of people start making their preparations. This is a little bit normal. It also means there's a lot more to choose from, which is a good thing. During that same time in the last week, 1,044 homes went pending. This is also stronger than, of course, we saw last month when we recorded this, but not amazing, not particularly notable. It's just more typical for the season. And in that same time, we saw 1,030 price drops. Again, fairly typical, but wait till I show you some of the closed statistics. I think you're gonna be pretty surprised by some of these numbers. So talking about some closed statistics for February 2024, we saw 2,402 homes closed. This is way up from January. Now, again, remember, the closed statistics that we're seeing for February are indicative of what the market was in late December and early January, assuming a 30-day close. So again, pretty typical. The volume is considerably up. We also saw an increase in the average sales price, pretty substantial, to $540,000. Average percent of list price to sales price also went up, meaning a home sold for a higher percentage of its list price at 97.3. Average price per square foot is also pretty substantially up at $257. And the average days on market remained about the same at 79 days. Now, the conclusion we can draw from this, I tell my folks, there's a reason the investors buy in December, and then, starting to get into the new year, people start to think about moving again now that we're past all the major holidays. Basically, the good deals are to be had in December, and once we get back into the new year, they go right back up to where they were. These stats are basically the same as we saw in November. So there's always that little dip, and it comes right back. So if you're thinking about selling, definitely a better time to do it. Don't list in December if it can be avoided. I also want to talk about the medians real quick. Median sales price up again about $10,000 from January. We saw median sales price list price ratio up to 98%. Median price per square foot also up at $220, and the median days on market was down just slightly from January at 56 days. Again, that is the entire Austin MLS, so Austin and all of its suburbs, but just a good indication of how strong the market is. So definitely an interesting one there. Now, let's compare that and contrast it to February of 2023. So 1 year ago, by this point in the market, again, interest rates had kind of stabilized at the 7-8% in some cases. So the market definitely slowed down, but we saw some pretty strong numbers. Again, just backing up the conclusion that, again, home sales are really slow in December and pick right back up in January. We saw 2,417 homes closed, nearly exactly the same as where we are now. Average sales price was lower than where we are now at $521,000. Percent list price, sales price, basically the same. Average days on market at 71. For the medians, we saw $425,000 sales price, again, a little bit lower than where we are now, and median days on market at 53. Now, conclusion, y'all, people ask all the time, is it a good time to buy? Obviously, rates are back up to right around 7 for most people, a little bit under, a little bit over. But, people's biggest thing is if you're going to make the investment into a home in the Austin area, like, are we at the floor, right? Because we went through a crazy high, we've come down to a pretty hard low, and when we're back on the path up a little bit, and these stats for the past several months have shown that, I can say with pretty good confidence, again, looking at these numbers, that I do believe Austin has kind of leveled out. Now, some of the suburbs are going to be affected a little bit more than central Austin. Everything's going to vary. If you're curious to talk a little bit more about your specific situation, reach out. I love talking about this stuff. But I do think we can draw a pretty reasonable conclusion shown from these statistics that the market's pretty strong. Now, I want to talk a little bit about my experience in the past couple of weeks. Throwing up 2 new listings. We've had offers on both of them within the first few days. My buyers, I've had 2 different buyers in multiple offer situations for really nice houses. One in that $400,000 to $500,000 range, and another one right around $700,000. Really well put together houses. I was working with the buyer, and we did have to fight against multiple offers for them, one of which we went pretty substantially over and still lost it. So the good houses are competitive. There's definitely buyers back in the markets. I just last weekend had one of the most attended open houses I've had in a very long time up in the Round Rock area. You know, the market's back. All of a sudden, it is March, and it does seem like the spring market has kicked in. So if you're thinking about selling, if you're thinking about buying, you're curious what all this means for you, you're curious what, the part of town you're thinking about, what that's looking like, reach out anytime. My direct contact info is on the screen and down in the description below. I love talking about this stuff. I would love to be that resource for you if you're looking to do either of those things. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see y'all next month.